back in town.
I didn't leave this time. So anyways, here we are today, and we are going to talk about apple pie on the rocks, teach you how to make that, which looks amazing. And we're going to talk to you about rural living at its finest. So because we've done our whole month about living outside of Calgary, this is one of our topics. So the people that want to live on acreages, stuff like that, what do you need to know? What should you know? What do you have to think about? And all that other kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, maybe you're considering something, you're like, oh, I never thought about that,
Exactly.
So it's going to bring some points. But let's make that apple pie. I was looking forward to it since yesterday.
Well, so what's really funny, though, I will say this about people who want to buy in rural areas. We've had a lot of incidences where they come out and they're looking at the rural areas and they really don't know what it takes to live on an acreage or a farm or whatever like that. That it's not...
We're going to show you the easy version of apple pie that if you don't know how to bake, you can put it on the rocks.
All right. So we're going to start with... Actually, I apologize. I have to put more ice in this. But we're starting with a shaker full of ice. So the shaker full of ice is there because you want to make sure that it's really cold and all that other kind of
It's
stuff.
all we can see.
Look at that. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So we got our shaker full of ice, and now we're going to take our 4 ounces of what is apple cider.
Okay, apple cider.
Apple cider. You can do apple juice too if you want. I just actually happened to find apple cider in the produce section, so I was like, apple cider it is.
So it's like non-alcoholic apple cider.
Well, I think apple cider is only alcoholic if you put alcohol in it.
Oh, I thought like in the breweries you buy the alcohol.
Oh, yeah, that cider.
Oh, what's this one?
Apple cider is like what you drink at Christmas time.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't know. It comes frozen.
Show your lifestyle.
Yeah, there's a non-alcoholic version.
All right, it says to shake it a little, and then I've rimmed my glass with sugar and cinnamon.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, with sugar and cinnamon. And then I've got apples here to just stick on the side. Whoops. And a cinnamon stick.
Oh, okay.
And I've actually got it in 2 separate different kind of cups, so you can see 2 different looks of the
I got
exact
like
same drink.
Fish ball.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is like.
You can get lunch with it. God, it's so delicious. It is so delicious.
It's so good, guys. Oh my god.
Clint will definitely get one of these for when he gets home from work.
So, sorry, what's in it? Oh, Fireball. Okay.
Apple, vanilla vodka, Fireball whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is like deadly combo. If you guys have like Fireball and you don't like to drink it, make this cocktail for sure.
This is great, but this would be great for Christmas. Like at Christmas time, this would be such a festive, like you can make it as a big punch, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This would be a super festive punch and stuff at Christmas time.
This is like really, really good. Wow. And I do like your idea, the cinnamon and what is it, brown sugar?
Just cinnamon and sugar, regular sugar, white sugar.
Yeah, like for the garnish, it's really adds that kind of that sugary kind of crust on top for like when you're actually having the apple pie. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, 10 out of 10. This one for me. I can't wait to make this one again. That's like delicious.
You can be so excited to go home.
I know.
And it's not even a ton of ingredients, which is actually what's kind of cool about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's easy to make, especially if you want to do it like for one of the parties or something. And so there's like when you have too many ingredients, it takes so long to make it, right? We've both done it. So I know it's just like, okay, it's coming up. So it's awesome. Well, okay. Rural living. There's like, I was driving on the way here and of course, I live in Chestermere, so I passed a lot of kind of farmland and acreages and kind of always think like, okay, what am I going to talk today about? I think if you've never lived in the rural area, you might, like for me, it's like, what is there in terms of comforts as of your home, right? Because we used to city of Calgary, right? You walk in, you turn on your lights, you turn your, heater, you're good. where this could be a little bit of more maintenance, right? So I was thinking like of conveniences and comfort of the immediate home.
Well, and the biggest thing, and you know me, I always like to define what is rural living. Well, rural living means that you're living on something that's not in any urban center. So not in the small towns, not in the big cities. You're actually out on an acreage where your
like
neighbor.
You.
It could just be
it.
you. Yeah,
and
but your
wildlife.
Exactly, but your neighbor isn't in close proximity. You really going to any kind of store or amenities, it means getting in a car and driving.
That's right, yeah. There is like not walking distance pretty much. Like it's
Exactly.
very rare if there's something that is a walking distance. But yes, so one of the things, you have to be comfortable driving. You have to be comfortable driving some sketchy roads, like that.
Not all the roads will be paved.
And that not all have names. They gotta have like Range Road 290 or
Yeah.
Township 15,
Not all the roads have streetlights, which is another thing to know.
Actually, majority of them don't. Because
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
That was the scariest part for me.
Yeah.
Like kind of get uncomfortable. Now, for me, it's actually, if there's no streetlights, your eyes get used to it, and I'm more comfortable than switching constantly from streetlights to darkness. Also, some of the roads don't get cleaned.
Yeah.
Because if there is a side roads, a lot of a nice neighbor who has a big truck with what is that? That's
The plow.
The plow. They would come out in the morning because usually the farmers get up super early.
Yeah.
They get in the truck and plow those small roads as a kind of sign of kindness. And then usually, if it's a rocky view of foothills, they actually pretty good in plowing their major roads.
Well, so that's actually something else to bring up. You have MDs instead of communities and wards. You have an MD, which also means you have something called a reeve when it comes to politics, not an MLA or something like that. Or a council person. You have reeves instead of when it comes to politics. So you have to go to your municipal districts to get things done, to ask questions, to pay your taxes, all that kind of stuff. Now, the one thing though is you can get affordability, so you get a bigger swath of land and maybe a nicer house the further out you go. So the further out you go on rural living, the cheaper it gets. And you pretty much have to go a pretty good distance. Like I'm saying, a good hour and a half out till you really start seeing those cost savings now, because a lot of people have realized that if I'm going to drive an hour in city, well, I might as well just drive an hour on the highway. So that's something to think about as well. So if you really want to see significant cost savings, you're looking at about an hour and a half outside that urban center. So keep that in mind when you're trying to make these decisions.
Yeah, and also, depending on where you live, what kind of zoning you have for the land you buy, how many acres, there could be also different property tax. Some can be quite expensive because let's say you have a smaller acreage, and I'm talking small, 5 to 10 acres with a big dwelling on it, and majority of it is not farmed or agriculture. You just kind of have a big house on it. Well, your property tax may be quite high because when they divide that percentage and stuff, there's only 10 acreages that go paying for that particular area of municipality, right? Or you can have just piece of land, humongous, 100 acres, and you farming, you doing agriculture, maybe you're renting this for some cattle to graze on, then your property tax will be very, very small.
Well, and that is exactly
it. Because exemptions for agriculture land.
Yeah, you have less people paying into the pool to maintain the infrastructure in the area, though, like we said, there may be less infrastructure in the area to maintain, but the property taxes may be high because you have bigger pieces of land. The other thing is, just because you're in the country doesn't mean you can do whatever you want with the land. There still is land use rules that you have to check with the city in regards to, the MD in regards to the zoning. And you have to make sure, can you have cattle? Can you build that second building? Can you build a second dwelling? How many dwellings are you allowed? And usually you're only allowed 1 or 2 additional dwellings outside of the residence. So you want to keep all of that in mind and check with your MD
just
before
because you have 100 acres doesn't mean you start plowing the houses on it for entire family. Another one is what was important to me, and that's kind of something what I always look for my clients, is what kind of utilities do they have on a property. Usually the property is really far away from the city, the utilities are all brought in, they don't have anything that's going to the property line. So sometimes most of the time your water is in the well.
Yeah.
And
A well or a cistern, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's not unusual to have a propane for your heating. So you're gonna have a giant propane tank sitting in the backyard that will heat the house.
Yeah, and solar, propane, there's lots of different ways out there because you may not have access to natural gas lines.
Yeah.
So don't assume you'll have natural gas as a heating source.
Even though it seems like super common, everybody should have it. Yeah, a lot of those a little bit further out rural areas don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everybody has electricity and never have generators. I know quite popular.
It's always, but the electricity if
but
there
not
is
in
an issue.
Alberta. I haven't seen anything in Alberta, especially like in this area. In BC,
I would be,
came across.
because you're further away from amenities when you're looking at these houses, you may still have electricity, but having generators is never a bad idea.
Yes.
Because if it goes out, you can't just drive to your neighbor's house or just drive and get candles. You might not have electricity, and we don't know for how long, especially because if there's an electrical problem, it takes a long time to go find it because it's so far out. So you're not going to have close utility maintenance people to come out there and help you get that fixed properly. So people who live out in rural areas tend to need to be a little bit more prepared, meaning generators, meaning, a little bit more in supply, meaning that you're not just dropping to the grocery store because it's not just 5 minutes away, it's like a 20-30 minute drive. So you want to be a little bit more prepared when you're living out there. You have to plan your day differently. If you're coming in from urban centers out to your rural property, you need to make sure you hit that grocery store on the way out of town because you're not just running to Home Depot anymore. You're not just running to Costco.
Forgot your milk, that's it. And you know what? Even if you're close to a smaller towns, as we know, generally, like we talked about, smaller towns usually, the operating hours like a little bit different too.
Absolutely.
They don't have that 24/7 Shoppers Drug Mart or Walmart that is open, so they'll be closed like at 8, maybe like at 7, whatever it gets dark.
Or not open on Sundays at all.
Exactly, because it's God's day.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you understand in terms of storage of the food, shopping for the future. What if it's a really bad weather? Like, we had those 2-3 days of heavy snow and you can't drive out, or your car broke down and you're waiting for the service. Like, those things take time, and you want to make sure that you stock up on food and essentials basically, and anything that you can do fire or lights with.
So the other thing to think about as well is their sewer lines. So this is the one thing that I always find interesting when people come out to rural and they don't realize that they're not on municipal sewer lines, and they have things called septic systems, and they have septic fields, and that they actually require maintenance. So that requires getting someone to go and empty your septic tank and deal with your septic field if it's not working properly. So those are things to think about. And honestly, a septic tank to replace, it's not small amounts of money, it's huge money. So you want to make sure that septic tank is in good order.
Yeah, we do have a couple of contractors we work with specifically on septics. They're amazing. So if you guys kind of think, oh my God, that sounds like a lot of information, just remember your realtors are the best source of information and all your contacts for all possible things that you need. Because we do sell acreages. We don't sell, 90% of the sales we still do residential, but we do that 10% where we do like commercial acreage kind of living, including raw land as well.
Yeah. Now the other thing to think about as well, and actually raw land's another great one. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you're buying raw land, you actually can only finance 50% of it. Right? You can't do 5% down.
So there is like land. No house on it, basically.
You're looking at a 50% loan to value, so you better have half of it up front. The other thing to know.
That's always a big surprise when I tell people this.
I know,
you have to have 50%. They're like, really?
Yeah.
I'm like,
The other thing to know as well is that when you're buying an acreage, only the first 20 acres will be financed with less than 20% down. And then after that, you're going to start seeing them finance the additional acres at 50%. So keep that in mind as well. So if you're looking at over 20 acres, your financing ratios change on what is allowable and what isn't allowable. So you can only finance 20 acres with
That's why I always say, like, go talk to the mortgage broker so you understand what the cost would be like. Because we look at like, oh, it's only $1 million, 400 acres. That's great. But then you got like $5 in the bank, and you're like, oh, like I need a lot more money. Yeah, so it's definitely a good point.
And depending on where you are, you may not have access to normal internet and cell service. So you may have really bad cell service where you are. You may need to get a booster so that you can actually get cell service. Also with your internet, you may not be able to go with traditional sources of internet, and you may have to do satellite internet to get high speed, or you might not even be able to get high speed at all. So these are the things that are different where you're out in those rural communities, is that you're not going to have the same kind of access that you're used to in urban centers.
You have to call like Crocodile Dundee, the phone booth, like, you know, like the stick that swims and makes a noise.
You better not be scared of wildlife.
Okay, yes.
Because bears,
coyotes, quite often.
Coyotes, yeah, bears, coyotes, anything, deer.
Well, yeah, there's lots of deer. You might, depending on where you live, you can get like a giant moose or something like this. You may also have injured animals on your property. Yeah, definitely get to know the wildlife phone number, because sometimes you will have an injured animal on your property. You don't know what to do. You might have a hostile animal on your property. You end up shooting it in self-defense. You need to know what your rights are and if you can shoot on your property or not. Like, you know, you might want to have a gun, make sure it's licensed.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
well, and all of those are great points. Segueing into the next point is crime. You're not going to have police at your fingertips. There's not going to be a fast response time. Paramedics will take a while to get out to you. So you may have to defend yourself. You may have to put in additional safety precautions. You may have to be more self-reliant and get to know your neighbors.
It's not for the weak-hearted.
It's not.
Not that we're trying to scare you. Doesn't happen ever, like just because you moved out in the rural. We're just saying all the possible things that you need to think about it. Usually it's like 99% of the time it's super quiet. In fact, there's going to be no soul.
No.
So you like to have a solitude, like, you know, it's good. One other thing I would say, because we are big outdoorsy people, invest into good walkie-talkie, like, you know, the radio. Somebody maybe you can have the same reception as some of your neighbors, so you guys can call each other when the phones are down, electricity is down, or whatever. Those things like don't fail.
And also too is rural areas, because there's so few, they can be very, very tight-knit communities. So you really have to think about what your social needs are. Because for some people, if you don't want to feel isolated, if you're that social network person, you either need to find that social network or you're going to feel that isolation. So these are all things to think about when you're looking at getting into those rural communities. And then also too is just because it's rural now doesn't mean it's going to be rural forever. There are developments growing very, very quickly. So my dad just sold his 5 acres just outside of Calgary. But I remember when he bought it, it was a good 20 minutes outside of town, and now you can walk to Costco.
That's right. That is right. That's how the balls out there.
My grandma continually bought out just outside of Calgary, and she did this over and over. And every time Calgary grew to where she was, she moved further. And then Calgary grew to where she was, and she moved further. And then finally in Dalhousie, she quit because she was tired of moving. So this is what can happen.
She goes way back, Dalhousie.
Dalhousie, seriously, she said she just kept moving and just
well,
kept
to be
growing around
honest,
her.
in 1995, when we moved to Canada and built a house, like in Douglasdale area, it was all farmland and horses running around when we went out to build our first home in the 90s. So yeah, we see it a lot. We see it all the time. So if you have an intention, you buy the land to keep it, to bring the value up, and potentially maybe redevelop it or sell it to a builder or developer, we definitely can advise you on that too. You got something on your shirt, yeah.
Oh well.
But that's kind of like I think it's a good points we covered, yeah.
All right, so love and share our show.
Hopefully we didn't scare you from rural living.
No, rural living's awesome. Just know what you're getting into.
But I'm telling you, if you have this drink with you, you're like peachy or apple, I guess.
Apple. Okay, show our product.
Okay, our price for April, right? April?
Yeah, we're giving away first part of April.
No, yes, it's for March.
Well, it's for the month of March, but we're giving it away in the beginning
feel
of
like
April.
I think it's like oh my god, I can't believe how time it's just fun, and it's going crazy here. Anyway, so this month, which is still March, we're giving away cocktail and whiskey smoking kit, and it comes with all the tools to get your glass to smoke, including the gun and the wood chips and 4 different flavors.
And how do you get it, Vanna?
Oh my God, how do you get it? Well, you basically have a week and a bit here to like, love, share our show everywhere you see it on all social media platforms, obviously Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. Also, if you tag your friends and family, even if you just like a cocktail, we are totally cool with it. And your name gets entered into the draw on the first Wednesday of April, as many times as we find it.
Yeah, that's as many times as you get. And you know what's awesome about it? It doesn't obligate anything. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't put you on any mailing list. And you get to enter to win our draw.
That's right.
So
and
next
what's
week.
What we're doing next week?
Next week is The Gem, and we're talking about hidden gem towns in Alberta. So these are all those little towns that you don't think about that are like little hidden gems that are amazing, that are going to be so exciting for you guys to learn about. But most of all, we want to wish you a happy and wonderful week, and we obviously will be here next week, same time, same place, same Facebook channel, to tell you all about these towns and to teach you another cocktail, because you can never have enough cocktails.
Obviously.
But also too is remember, Amazon, we are selling our booklet, so find it on Amazon. The link is on our Facebook page. Yeah. So feel free to go up into our featured post and you can find the link there and you can buy it. I think it's only $14.99, super cheap.
Yep, and lots of people love it for a reason that if somebody, who likes to make cocktails, they can go in and just kind of find a whole bunch of recipes.
Absolutely. So have a great week. Thanks.